Welcome to the second edition of Disclosures of Cognitions resulting from viewer inquiry. Today's edition brought to you by Giant Ass Saw Thing. When you absolutely positively got to jack up everything in sight, trust Giant Ass Saw Thing. Let's get straight to viewer inquiry and resulting disclosures of cognitions that will result from them, shall we? Viewer inquiry number 1. J.R. Chadwick asked, what is your response to a creationist who asks, have you ever told a lie? That makes you a liar. When a yick proposes such rubbish, use the following flowchart and you can be sure to take ownership of your yick with the greatest expedience. Step 1. Rhetorically ask the yick, have you ever masturbated? If no, inform the yick that he metaphorically resembles a deformable paper container capable of being closed at the mouth whose capacity is pervaded by fecal matter from an unspecified animal that routinely habitually makes false statements. If yes, inform the yick that since he has masturbated, he has therefore given a man a hand job and is therefore a
fag! 0 times any other number always equals fag! Think about it, you little mathematician.
Viewer inquiry number 2. Nikita Savordorf asked, do you believe in free will, and why? While the expense of preparing a last will and testament can be difficult for working families to afford, there are several online avenues that provide a less expensive method for preparing a will, and taxpayers' money could be better spent elsewhere. Viewer inquiry number 3. Heathen Infidel asks, you are trapped on an island with Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, and Ann Coulter. They won't shut up about politics. Which one do you kill first? The answer is, of course, Rush Limbaugh. The favorite meats at the Jaguar Jones cafeteria are sausage, bacon, and ham. Furthermore, the swine bodily fluids can be used to ferment 80 fruits so that a level of intoxication could be induced that could make copulation with Ann Coulter agreeable, assuming, of course, that she does, in fact, have a vagina. Viewer inquiry number 4. Geogrexerin asked, what question would answer the square root of 42? 6.48. Viewer inquiry number 5. Cow in Space asks, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, and is it possible to house train a yick? The amount of wood that a woodchuck would chuck, assuming hypothetically that they could chuck wood, would depend on the angle of the cruck of the chuck, assuming they don't pass the buck when you gotta do the tuck when your girlfriend is driving your truck because it's going to get stuck in the muck. Then you'll have to find a duck and give it a good pluck, or it will run amok. Then you will look like a schmuck, so you'll be out of luck, and that would really suck. Regarding the house training of a yick, house training of yicks is allowed in all 50 states, although in Virginia there is a nominal $10 processing fee. Viewer inquiry number 6. Amigo inquires about the differences between young Earth creationists and old Earth creationists and different tactics for taking ownership of them. Ownership of an old Earth creationist is not necessary because the old Earth creationist accepts science. They can only be labeled as creationists because they seek to answer the question, why is there something instead of nothing? They quickly realize that this question is philosophical and not scientific and do not attempt to burden science with it. Viewer inquiry number 7. Kill Urine Analysis 2001, after making some rather bold inquiries about pangolins and their absolute gayness, asks, did you have pie on March 14th? Kill Urine Analysis is, of course, testing the Jaguar Jones Institute's knowledge of Winfield's Law, which was first discovered by Jules Winfield. Winfield's Law states that pi cannot exist on a day when the digits of the date add up to a prime number when the month is the square root of the last digit of the year. Therefore, no, we did not have pi on March 14th. Viewer inquiry number 8. Blues 260 inquires about the format and delivery of the Jaguar Jones audiovisual digital transmissions. There are 2 central influential paradigmatical origins that have generated audiovisual digital transmissions that have been consistently observed on the Jaguar Jones channel. Central influential paradigmatical origin number 1, Mr. Manley. Mr. Manley is a syndicated radio program from the early 1990s created by Colum Keating. Please enjoy the following 1 minute and 40-second audio transmission, which is augmented by Manley images.
And now another edition of How to Be Manly. Today, lesson number 1750. Well, it's the evening after your 10th wedding anniversary. Your life has been pleasant enough. However, lately your wife has been asking you whether or not you think she has put on any weight in this last 10 years. You pretend to ignore the question, and you keep biting your lower lip so as to prevent you from saying something stupid. You must hold your tongue, because actually, your wife is the same little girl you married 10 years ago, only fatter. Finally, she sits next to you on the sofa as you are watching a manly episode of American Gladiators on television, and she again asks the question point blank and demands an answer. Casting all logic and common sense aside, you decide to answer her truthfully. But how can this be accomplished in a manly manner? Follow along in your Manly Manual, page 1496, and repeat after me. Number 1. Well, honey, I think it's mighty strange that you have stretch marks, considering that we don't have any kids. Number 2. Actually, Snookums, you'd be the ideal weight. That is, if you were twins. Number 3. Don't worry about it, honey. But hey, you're crowding the sofa. Do you think you could move over? Use any of the above phrases in just such a situation, and as you find in the future that it's very easy to hold your tongue after it's been ripped out of your mouth and placed in your hand, you can rest assured that your wife will have no doubt as to what kind of man you really are. Until next time, this is Mr. Manly saying be manly, and good day.
Central influential paradigmatical origin number 2, the Coneheads. The Coneheads are a family of 3 from the planet Remulac. On Remulac, all thoughts and expressions are communicated using the most technical and sterile method allowed by language and augmenting it with 67.4% more syllables than are necessary. For example,
I believe it is time for midday cessation of activities for protein carbo intake.
Yeah, sure. Take your lunch break.
If I did not fear incarceration by human authority figures, I would terminate your life functions by applying sufficient pressure to your blunt skull so as to cause its collapse.
Ford, Lincoln, Mercury, Sable.
A personal conveyance named for its inventor, an assassinated ruler, a character of Greco-Roman myth, and a small fur-covered mammal.
many viewers have inquired about the backdrop from this audiovisual digital transmission. This backdrop is in fact part of the collection of art at the Jaguar Jones Museum of Modern Art and Water Park. The name of the piece is Symmetry and was created by an artist henceforth known as the insufferable narcissistic liberal who finds the aroma of his personal flatulence to be pleasing to the point of having unnatural and quite frankly disturbing affection for it. It is composed of 647 single inline memory modules that were found in an abandoned file cabinet and were going to be disposed of through a professional waste disposal service. Taking inspirations from comments made by human flesh connoisseur Jeffrey Dahmer, the insufferable narcissistic liberal took them to his studio and created this piece of crap. Other artsy-fartsy flatulence connoisseurs who have viewed Symmetry say that the most interesting part of the piece is the lone vertical column of 30 pen sims that offset it from the center. In reality, this column exists because of a miscalculation on the part of the insufferable narcissistic liberal. Rather than cut the mounting board down to size, a column of 30 pen sims was added. Other works by the insufferable narcissistic liberal include Napster, named for the shape of the holes on these controller boards. This untitled work, obviously inspired by the left hemisphere of what we will loosely call the brain of the insufferable narcissistic liberal, and 53 cents per letter, named after an incident in a particularly cheesy episode of the Brady Bunch. Coming soon from the insufferable narcissistic liberal, a 3-meter high piece called Stacker. Techno geeks from the early 1990s will recognize the spelling. Viewer inquiry number 10. Quanazanzar asks, I thought you were going to yell some more. Very well.
You want yelling? I'll give you some yelling. I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to clean your clock and make your wife hold my jacket. Insert hip-hop tough guy talk that a 40-year-old man doesn't have any business saying right here. And then I'm going to do something really jacked up to your dog. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's really going to be jacked up. You want to know what your problem is? Your holes, your socks, all your socks. Yeah, your socks, they all have holes. That's right. I'm a black man living in a white man's world. Oh, great. Get out of my face, why don't you? I'm going to wreck you out.